Hello, my name's Simon French and I'm Chief Economist at Panmure Gordon. Today we're going to talk about the outlook for US monetary policy, the Federal Reserve, through to the end of 2019. What you have is a Federal Reserve that has already cut interest rates in 2019 by 50 basis points, 2 cuts. But there is clearly increasing political pressure coming from the White House to try and make a more significant easing of monetary policy. Potentially 50 basis points additional of cuts to the federal funds rate, but also there's a restarting of quantitative easing, certainly the expansion of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Now, what is key for investors trying to assess whether the Federal Reserve will respond to that political pressure is whether the data will provide effectively the air cover for what is a group largely of academic economists who are going to need, if they're going to bow to political pressure, a fig leaf of some of the data that we may get out over the next 3 to 4 weeks heading into the Federal Reserve meetings, both at the end of October, but also the crucial press conference one in December. And I think the key things to look out for are PCE inflation, the 2% target that the Federal Reserve has for US inflation, and whether a couple of factors that are starting to drive up inflation in the US economy persist or whether they're going to be transitory. And the first of those factors is the tariff impacts that have come in on US imports from China and have pushed up the prices faced by consumers. If that persists, and indeed if that accelerates and heightens, then you're going to see an increasing breadth of that feeding into the price index and not providing that low inflation that would permit the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. And the second factor, of course, is by most measures, the US labour market is quite tight right now. Sub 4% unemployment, wages growing at 3.5% year on year. That's the kind of backdrop that will start to fuel, if it persists, core inflation, which will make the job of cutting interest rates harder for the Federal Reserve if, alongside those tariff inflationary pressures, it pushes up the price index. Now, on the flip side, we have weak manufacturing data around the world, and the US economy is not immune to that impact. And the weak PMIs that we've seen in the manufacturing sector, if they start to spread to the much larger services sector, that is the type of backdrop that the Federal Reserve will say, look, we are at the moment comfortable with a mid-cycle adjustment, a gradual reduction in interest rates in the US economy, but we may need to do something more significant if the growth outlook suggests that there will be surplus capacity and the economy could benefit from a bit of a shot in the arm from lower costs faced by householders and businesses. So those are really the dynamics that could drive the thinking going into the Federal Reserve, and whether Jay Powell and the rest of the FOMC will have the data to go alongside the political pressure to deliver looser monetary policy into the end of 2019 in the US economy.